Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and with there being about 3 weeks until the actual expansion launch, about I guess 7 weeks until the raid comes out, at least on Mythic and all that, the race war first begins. I want to make a video today talking about Warlock in the upcoming raid tier, being Dream Rift, Void Spire, and eventually March on Sunwell, Weldanos, whatever it's called. What specs are good, what the profiles look like, and give a bit of a breakdown where it's at. Briefly, tuning will very likely come and change. If it does change things, I'll make this video again before the raid comes out, but people have been asking a lot, so I want to give a bit of a breakdown on all that. Boys, at this point, we're less than 400 subs to 100k on the channel. If you aren't subbed to the YouTube channel and would consider doing so, it would mean the actual world to me. Low key, I sort of want to stop mentioning it because it's sort of like, I don't want it to be annoying, but we're so close, man. We're so close. I know we'll hit it regardless, but yeah, I'm excited for it and stuff. So if you aren't subbed, maybe consider subbing if you will consider it. It mean the world to me. And yeah, let's get it rolling. Now, Chimaerus is the solo boss raid in Midnight. Depending on tuning and things, both the Dream Rift, which is Chimaerus' raid, has one boss, being him, and Void Spire come out the same week. Also, be sure to ignore the scrolling text on the screen. This testing is from Christmas time. Some bosses have been tested again. Not a whole lot of changes on them. If there are relevant ones that I remember, I'll highlight them, but regardless, we're going to talk about profiles in this video as well as tuning. So keep in mind, if I say a fight's a good Destro fight, it probably is a good Destro fight toolkit wise. But if Destro's undertuned like it is now, well, you probably won't play it. But we're going to hit on both and try and highlight both parts of that to not confuse anybody. So Chimaerus basically starts off as like a upstairs-downstairs fight. You can see I'm downstairs here. You go down with the smash effect and you kill the ads downstairs. Once you break the shield, the ad goes upstairs for the upstairs players to then kill those ads. If they reach the boss, he consumes them, gets a buff for the rest of the fight, does a lot of damage, and it basically spells disaster for the rest of the raid. The actual stacking effect he gets from consuming them will last the whole fight, and he spawns more ads after each intermission. Now, if you take the smash and go downstairs, you will get access to the ads basically first, and melee right there, taking the smash, they're going downstairs now, and they're going to kill those ads. You can see them running around, the players in those blue shields there. I believe those are ads, can't even tell, but either way. This fight is a good destruction fight as far as toolkit is concerned, because you have these small ads downstairs, you come upstairs, you can cataclysm these, you know, get some withers rolling on them. You can also get just really good havoc cleave in general on the boss and the large colossal ad that's coming upstairs, I think right about now. Whether you havoc the boss and hit the ad, or havoc the ad and hit the boss, you can indeed hit the boss for full damage while you're downstairs as well. So havoc cleave is basically arguably unlimited. It lasts 20 seconds in Midnight with a half-minute cooldown. You can get a extreme amount of havoc cleave here. Now, Destra also is undertuned a good bit at this point. We'll likely get some buffs, but in its current form, probably not going to be played here. Demonology and Affliction also are pretty solid when it comes to this fight. Now, when it comes to a race to world first kind of setting and higher in progression, often you'll see guilds, if it's possible to be done on certain fights, sort of make like a meat grinder-esque kind of scenario where if there are ads that spawn that can be stacked near the boss and cleaved down by heavy cleave classes like, you know, warriors, whatever, this sounds good right now for cleave, Demo Warlock with a stack cleave profile, they will do that. A good example of that is Forge Weaver Araz from Mana Forge Omega. Most assumed you bring the ads behind the actual like black holes in the floor and remove the shield that way, but guilds pretty much always opted to tank the ads near the boss, knock the ads into the portal while keeping cleave in the boss to maximize DPS on the boss and the ads at the same time. If that meat grinder is able to be formed on this fight, or really any fight in general, Demonology does gain a lot of value. It has a very strong meat grinder based profile, and there's just that. Currently, it's very strong in single targets. If you need patchwork damage here, obviously it's pretty good in this setting as well, with the boss being well, active for the whole fight with full damage taken. It could be a good Affliction fight as well. Obviously, Dark Harvest is very strong. Throwing a seed on the ads, harvesting them down, getting absolute corruption cleave on the boss while you're downstairs or upstairs, even when he's still able to take damage, is just solid in general. You can get good ad cleave. So we'll see where it goes. I can see all three specs being played here. If you're not taking tuning into account, I'd say it's probably a better AF and destruction fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if that meat grinder-esque scenario pops up and you do see Demonology played here more than I, well, sort of expect. We'll see where it goes. With current tuning, though, destruction's not very good. But if it gets buffed, well, you know, hopefully enjoy Destro for the 10th tier in a row. Imperator Averzian is the first boss you're going to encounter in the Void Spire raid, which has 6 bosses in it. We're going to see 5 here, though, because the last boss, Crown of the Cosmos, was not tested on beta, and it will not be at all. Now, this is going to be the pre-nerf version of this fight's actual footage here. This fight was crazy for a first boss. It's actually a really good boss, but drastically overtuned and overcomplicated for being a first boss. We tested it here. Basically, you get debuffs to come out here on 10 players. You need to have 5 debuffs to spell on top of an ad to remove the shield, and then 5 to the next one to remove the shield here too. And the third one will indeed pop, filling in a space on the board. This is a tic-tac-toe boss, basically. It has changed where I think the cadence is slower, and they've also made it, I think, 3 dispels, not 5. If you missed one, you literally wiped. So obviously, a little overtuned for a first boss on Mythic, looking at the last few tiers, how they've been. And this fight, honestly, similar to Chimaerus, you get a lot of like stacked ag cleave every so often with these Void Maw spawning in, a couple larger ads and Void Shapers in there as well. But you have the boss, who's taking basically full damage, also the entire fight. You can get a lot of good Destra Havoc base cleave here. At the same time, you can get a lot of really good Affliction cleave here too. Throwing a seed there, casting Dark Harvest on the ads. You're going to have Dark Harvest every 40-ish seconds. And I think a lot of Dark Harvests, as long as it stays tuned where it is, a lot of Dark Harvest CDR and things, and how relevant it is, will be affected by the cadence and pacing of these fights based on ad timers and things. I don't have them all down at this point. They've changed a bit from beta. But regardless, I can see honestly all 3 specs being played in this fight as well, depending on tuning. You do get a lot of stack cleave in this fight. Basically all the ads are stacked together whenever they spawn in. The boss is being stacked here on top of this ad as well. Obviously it just dies to the shield being broken there, but you're going to have the smaller ads spawning out of the portals that these ads bring. And you can get a lot of stat cleave here. I'd say Demonic Strength cleave, but it's gone. But Dog cleave, Implosion cleave, just Demonology's general stat cleave profile. Very, very strong in these scenarios. At the same time, you also have these larger ads spawning in here, the Abyssal Void Shaper, but they're being tanked together in that meat grinder kind of scenario. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe in this boss it couldn't be stacked with the boss, but I could be wrong. That cast was off, by the way. They do shield. Don't let them shield. Kill that. But I do feel like this is probably a decent candidate for a Demonology fight as well. It really sort of depends what your guild actually needs. You can see most of the ads are stacked here. Aversion's off in the corner, but you can just still do damage to the boss if you want. I could literally see all 3 being played here. I think, honestly, it might just come down to what is the best tuned spec. Each one's profile can be strong in this scenario. I'm probably just going to play whatever brings a good bit of single target and some cleave. It's the first boss of the raid. It's going to be easy either way, but I think all 3 do fit here. You get a mix of single target, Prio cleave, and Hectic Ag cleave on this fight. And the longer it goes on, the more chaotic it gets. I'm going to probably lean towards Affliction or Demonology here, just because Destra's profile can be a bit limited at times based on what you're doing in certain like heavy AoE cleave mixed base scenarios. But if tuning is tuning and it's, well, Destra tier again, definitely has some value here too. But I'm going to lead towards Affliction and Demonology on Aversion, and we'll see where that goes when the tier comes out. Next up, we have Mr. Vorasius, and I want to clarify that as a tail. Once again, a tail before we get too far into this encounter. So Vorasius is a patchwork fight for the most part. You're going to have little beetles spawning in that in every intermission, every like minute or so. I'm not sure the timer on it. But you need to kill a handful of beetles against the left or right wall to break through it, to move away from his Godzilla breath he puts out every so often. And this circle, which I don't think is the right testing from this, it spawns like these epicenter rings like you had on Silken Court. Just stand behind them. If you're at range, you can stand behind that 4th ring, and you never have to move. Maybe an inch or 2, depending on where the epicenter comes from. You don't have to worry about dodging and stuff. It's super easy. But regardless, this is a patchwork boss, barring a little bit of ag cleave. So it really depends on tuning and where things are. Last time we were here, Demonology pets like jailers and things from Apex Talent were not working on this fight. So that in conjunction with the Dreadlords from Affliction also not working made it a little weird to test. It's going to be just whatever's best in single target. The ads die really quickly. Even if you're playing a spec that does a lot of single target damage, you really don't need probably anybody to cover cleave damage on the ads. They all die to like just generic damage. They have very little health. You can see them dying here already. And honestly, overcommitting like cleave based damage to these ads is actually a trap, because you want to get them to the wall and kill them there before they die. Otherwise, if they die in the middle of the room, they don't break the wall and you die to the Godzilla breath. This is going to be like the Terrors of the tier, the Patchwork boss of the tier they've been putting in earlier into these tiers, where it's not like a huge DPS check week 2 at all, but week 1, depending on tuning, a lot of guilds might get stuck here. It does hit pretty hard. It requires a lot of HPS, and even DPS, it might be a pretty steep requirement to kill this boss. So it's really just a tuning boss, depends where it is. Whatever spec is best is what you're going to play in single target here. At this current point, it's Demonology. Probably gonna get nerfed this week. Could be Soul Harvester after that, but whatever's best in single target, you're gonna play here. Unless like two are the same basically in single target, you could see a bit of variance, but a lot of random movement on this fight too. So things like Affliction and or Demonology, typically a bit more mobile than Destro, so we'll see where that lands. Nice little floor POV here. But regardless, Mr. Vorasius, Patrick Boss, whatever's best in single target, you're probably gonna end up playing. Fallen King Salhadaar is, I believe you can go to Vorasius or Salhadaar second. I could be wrong with this raid's pathing, but he is Nexus King Salhadaar. He's fallen and he's being fought again. He has a Void influence this time around. So I tested this fight again. I think they retested it for the 4th time like a few weeks ago. This fight, I think the best spec on this fight is Destruction. I don't think it's even incredibly close if you're looking for concentrated Void, Ag Cleave, and Prio damage. However, Destruction is tuned like a whole expansion behind for single target at this point. It needs like catastrophic, in a positive manner, level buffs to Chaos Bolt. I think damage profile-wise in this fight, you're looking at Demonology, or sorry, Destruction and Affliction. Destruction being number 1, you can Havoc the boss and just blast the Prio large Void ad down, then swap the number 2. They need to die in a staggered fashion, or they apply a dot. If you don't kill them in a staggered fashion, it double stacks, it refreshes, but regardless, add cleave, add control. This fight reminds me a bit of Raden, actually, with the orbs from Nilotha, where you play Destro locks for boss cleave, but also just say add cleave, add control. Destro's profile is very good at that spread, add control. These smaller adds here, the Enduring Void spawn in from the larger adds dying. Every set after, they spawns, 2 orbs, 2 smaller ones from where the big ones died. So the orb is going to ramp over the course of the encounter. You're always going to get 2 of the larger concentrated Void orbs every set, but you're going to have 4, and then 6, and then 8, and then 10 of the smaller ones, which you have to kill quickly as well. As far as like tuning is concerned, I would play Affliction on this fight if things went live the way it is today. Demonology's profile on this fight's a bit odd. There's a lot of movement here, which is not bad for Demonology, but it's a little weird in Demo's ramp. And honestly, not being able to get like consistent ag cleave with the boss being pulled across the room like you can with Destro Havoc Cleave or even Affliction with dots is a bit of a concern. If the orbs, I forgot to mention, if the orbs touch the boss, you die. So the boss is being pulled across the room, dragged 20, 30 yards every half a minute, which makes movement and all that a bit annoying when you're trying to cleave ads. So if all 3 specs went live in the exact same like level of tuning, I'd say this is a Destro fight, hands down. But honestly, with current tuning, I'd say it's an Affliction fight. I don't think you'll see Demonology here unless there are other classes that are cleaving orbs and they want you for like overtuned demo single target. There's not a whole lot of stat cleave around the boss that you can really even make at this point. This is not like a Raz where you can bring the orbs within a yard or 2 of the boss and then ring them back and get cleave on them. These large Void ads have a lot of health. They need to be cleaved down for a while. And the smaller ads, they die sort of fast, but you don't want them getting close to the boss because if they touch, you just die. So I'm assuming this is going to be a Destro or AF fight. With current tuning, I'd say Affliction. With better Destro tuning, quite possibly Destruction. Every minute and a half, the boss goes into this like spinning Void phase where he takes extra damage. Minute and a half timing, I dodged that spike, good job. Minute and a half timers lines up perfectly with the minute and a half Infernal talent. Right about here, he starts spinning again, I think, in a moment. I think one more set of ads, actually. He takes increased damage. So a lot of weird timers in this fight. I'm going to give the nod to current tuning and Affliction, but if things get buffed and nerfed and Destro's solid, this is going to be a Destro fight, I'm pretty sure. This is a tried and true classic Destro Havoc control encounter, and we'll see if Blizz buffs Destruction, or if we are playing AF here in a matter of 7 weeks. Vaelgor and Ezzorak is the 4th boss in Voidspire. I had to think there for a second. And this is basically a permanent 2-target cleave encounter as long as you're in phase 1. Vaelgor and Ezzorak are the 2 dragons you're fighting here. Vaelgor is the darker one. Ezzorak is the lighter purple one off in the corner. And basically, it's cleave. There's a handful of mechanics. They do frontal breath. They have tails. I think they swipe. I'm not even sure. Dodge the frontal breath. The bosses are going to periodically put circles on their players, like here, that spawn these ads. When they do, they're going to tether you to the boss. You either run away to break the tether, kill the ads. I believe you can take the frontal breath to negate the slow effect from the tether as well, but there's that. If either boss, I think if either boss is 10% or more apart from the other boss's health, they do not share health, they enrage. and that spells, well, a lot of pain. That orb coming out there needs to be soaked by players coming in contact with it, like right about there it pulses, and it reduces the actual ring around the orb itself. If it's not fully soaked, it explodes and makes a larger, basically, radius around, well, that's if it's not fully soaked, that'll be larger. That is the fully soaked version of what that orb does. So basically, if you don't soak, it fills the entire room up. This fight's Destro or Af. I really, if you're playing Demonology in this fight, Destro and Af are catastrophically undertuned and we're in trouble. I honestly would probably give the nod currently to Destruction here as far as profiles are concerned. With Havoc being 20 seconds with improved Havoc, I think it's 20, it might even be 25 in Midnight. It's at least 20 seconds with a half-minute cooldown. You can almost get permanent cleave on the bosses here with Chaos Bolts. I mean, your entire toolkit, basically, right? Very, very strong. There is an intermission in this fight where the bosses go up in the air and fly around. It spawns a larger ad in the middle of the room. I think some small ones, just cleave them down. You can also just play Affliction with Absolute Corruption here, whether it's Soul Harvester or Hellcaller. Couldn't tell you, but both seem like solid options here. Both are known for their, cleave potential, council cleave potential. It really depends on which just tuned better, whether it's Destro or Affliction. Demonology with the stack cleave profile that it has, the dragons are not going to be stacked here, so it's Destro or Af. At this current point in time, I'd give the nod to Af with tuning, but I think if tuning is on the same level overall, it might be a Destro fight, but I'd give the nod to Af. I want an Af tier. Let's play some Af. Lightblinded Vanguard is going to be the 5th boss in Voidspire, and this is the last boss I have footage of here because, once again, Crown of the Cosmos, being the end boss in Voidspire, was not tested and will not be tested. This boss is a 3-target council cleave-based encounter where there's 3 targets, you cleave them down, and, well, that's basically it. Okay, jokes aside. So there are 3 targets here. They take full damage and stuff. There are times when one of the bosses reaches ultimate, or, well, full energy. They'll sort of run behind the other 2 and start doing like an effect. We'll see it happening in a moment here. So you can't get like permanent 3-target cleave. But right here, there's one of them. So we drag the other 2 bosses away. One's doing its ultimate. So, but you're still getting like 2-target cleave for the most part on the ones that aren't ulting on you, essentially. Honestly, all 3 specs have potential here. Demonology is known for that stacked meat grinder kind of cleave profile. A fight like this with Demo's baseline profile, maybe playing Doomguard and or Charhound, the Doom talent, weaving Dooms as well, could be really strong in this encounter because the bosses, they're basically stacked the whole time unless one's ulting, and even if it is, the other 2 are stacked as well. Besides that, Destruction, you can play Mayhem here or just Havoc with a longer duration. You can get really good Destro cleave here, whether it's Hellcaller or Diabolist, even Affliction. Absolute Corruption, Hellcaller Wither-based stuff, just good dot damage. Honestly, 3 targets with the current tuning on Seed and all the prior damage that it brings could be really strong here as well with Nightfall effects, Patience 0, Nocturnal Yield. All 3 specs here have potential. I lean more towards Af and Destro likely, just because I think they are probably a little bit better when you're fully using their profiles here with like big Destro Havoc cleave or Mayhem cleave, Cataclysm, Lake of Fire, stuff like that, or Affliction with like just Absolute Corruption, big dot cleave, so on and so forth. But either way, all 3 have potential here. And I low-key feel like if I had the option to play anything here, I'd want to play Demonology. I think it'd be fun. Big meat grinder kind of fight. I'm eating every mechanic here in the world. Sick. But yeah, all 3 have potential here. It really depends on tuning on this fight. With current tuning being the way that it is, you play Demonology with Soul Harvester, but that's probably gonna get nerfed a little bit. Besides that, you play Affliction as Soul Harvester. I mean, you have 3 targets here. I would assume just honestly seed spam similar to Demon Hunters. Soul Hunters is the play here at this point. There might be some tuning that comes in that changes that and makes it more like UA based or whatever, but regardless, 3 stacked targets here with like an Affliction, Absolute Corruption based profile with Seed Spam, Nocturnal Yield, all like the prio that it brings on 1 target. Also, your Apex talent just bringing passive cleave through Dreadlords to proc on 3 stacked targets, or even Destro with Sargeras Embers, right? Like, they're all really good here. Even your Demonology Demons cleave. I think this is going to be a good Warlock fight regardless. The question is what spec, but honestly, once again, just depends on tuning. But if it were me and I was making a bet right now, I'd lean towards probably Affliction or Destruction being the better choice if they were all tuned the same. The last boss we have today is Mr. Belo'ren, the bird. So Belo'ren is actually the first boss of 2 in March on Quel'Danos, which is the Sunwell raid that comes out on Mythic a week later than how Mythic Voidspire and Dream Rift release. There's only 2 bosses in this raid, and I don't think this boss is really that complicated. It's sort of like match the colors, but I would venture to guess this boss is probably one of the bigger candidates to be a wall tuning wise. It's the first boss in the 2 boss Mythic raid. Every difficulty of Quel'Danos is coming out at the same time. There's no early heroic week, and honestly, I think this is one of the better bosses they've I mean, out of the bosses we've tested, this is probably the best boss we've done for all of Midnight so far. Once again, Midnight Falls, the boss after Mr. Belo'ren here, and Crown of the Cosmos, which is after Lightblinded Vanguard, are not tested, so I don't have footage of those. Not hitting on them here, but Mr. Belo'ren is a bird, as you can tell. He goes into an egg when he reaches 0 health. You basically need to kill the egg to kill the boss. The egg has, you know, a decent bit of health, but it's only active for a certain amount of time. So it's gonna like rinse and repeat. He goes into an egg, he casts Rebirth. When Rebirth is done, he comes back, and then, you know, kill the bird again. The egg comes back with whatever health you had at last time. Basically, you gotta kill the egg through a handful of intermissions while doing mechanics in phase 1, soaking orbs, and that's that. Now, as far as damage profiles in this fight are concerned, honestly, so when it comes to the egg burn phase here, it's single target. There is no adds active in this part of the fight at all. When it comes to phase 1, which we're heading back into right about now, the boss is going to spawn here, and there's not random, but there's cleave on eggs that spawn, and there's cleave on the actual phoenixes that spawn in as well. Phoenixes, to clarify what I just said there, which does bring the question, what do you want to play here? I mean, it's a good Destro Affliction cleave fight. You can see a Void Ember spawning back there. You Havoc the boss and cleave these actual birds down. The eggs are spawning in. These need to die. They're not active for the entire duration of phase 1. And in phase 2, once again, you're not getting like any cleave at all. It's a single target burn in a sense, where if we're in a world where destruction is like really good in, you know, it's solid in single target and like good in cleave, but affliction is better in single target and still pretty solid in cleave, I could see a world where you just play AF here, which is sort of the case where it is right now, honestly. There's also the possibility of maybe playing Demonology here if you can stack Belo'ren on top of the eggs here as well. If you can make that sort of meat grinder scenario that we've seen at times in the past. If Demonology is your best bet in single target, you could definitely see it being played here, because that egg in the intermission does need to die to kill the boss. So as far as like tuning and things are concerned right now, if this is going live tomorrow, I think you probably would play Demonology here due to being overtuned, but putting aside the overtuning a little bit, I think this will be an AF fight. AF or Destro, I would lean a bit towards AF due to not having the ability to have that consistent Destro cleave profile like you have on other fights. On Vaelgor and Ezzorak, on Lightblinded Vanguard, you always have targets to Havoc. It's off cooldown, put it back on cooldown because you can hit it on a target. This fight, not the case. I'd probably give the nod to Affliction here. A lot of movement in the intermission as well, which makes Demo ramp a little hard on the actual egg here. I'm giving the nod to AF, but once again, tuning can happen and change all of that. But Mr. Belo'ren is, regardless, a very fun fight and a good bird. So thanks for watching, guys. Wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully, for those who are wondering about Locke and the new raid, hopefully gave a bit of a better perspective on how Warlock looks to be in the first tier. A lot of this can change with tuning. Destro is the worst spec by a long shot, I'd say, damage-wise right now when it comes to like cleave and single target, but I wouldn't be surprised in the long run if it gets buffed and Destro or Demo and AF get nerfed and we're playing Destro again for the 10th tier in a row. Yippee! But jokes aside, we'll see where it all goes. I'll make another video like this in a few weeks when the raid gets closer. Probably at the launch, things change and go from there. If you guys want any profiles or add-ons, my website up here has all of it in the Week War add-ons section I made a few weeks ago, or I guess a week ago at this point. Profiles, add-ons, pictures of add-ons, listed them all there if you want them all for free. Same with talent builds for retail and PTR. And a huge thank you to all supporters on Patreon all the time. Thank y'all for all the support, guys. Without y'all support, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing, man. And in general, you know, I really appreciate it. So thank y'all so much. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, also link up here. It's both down below in the description. With this video coming out on Tuesday, I wouldn't be surprised if on Wednesday they nerf Warlock and the video becomes partially irrelevant. But we did hit a bit on damage profiles, not just raw tuning in this video. So hopefully it holds true for a bit longer. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.